Look closely at the cracks in your driveway. There is a plant with red succulent stems crawling through the concrete right now that contains more omega-3 fatty acids than salmon. Not per pound, per leaf. It has sustained human life for 4 millennia. It has outlived the fall of the Roman Empire and the rise of the Industrial Age. Yet in the modern world, we were conditioned to call it a nuisance. We were taught to destroy it. In 2022, Yale University scientists discovered that this plant achieves what they called a biological impossibility. It integrates two distinct forms of photosynthesis, C4 and CAM, allowing it to thrive in total drought while remaining as nutrient-dense as a rainforest. This is Purslane, and its story is the greatest botanical heist in history. In 1050 BC, a clay vessel in northern Greece was filled with thousands of tiny black seeds. When archaeologists cracked it open 3,000 years later, those seeds were identical to the ones currently growing between your paving stones. By the 7th century BC, Purslane was a sacred offering in the Samian-Hurrian. By the 4th century, Theophrastus, the father of botany, was teaching farmers how to sow it alongside their most essential crops. This was never a weed. This was a staple. It crossed the Atlantic long before the settlers did. While European records first noted it in Massachusetts in 1672, archaeological evidence shows it had already been in North America for 2,500 years. From the mountains of Greece to the plains of Kentucky, two vastly different civilizations reached the same conclusion: this plant was vital for survival. But why? In 1960, physiologist Ancel Keys launched the famous 7 countries study. He was looking for the secret to heart health. He found it in the farmers of Crete. These people consumed a staggering amount of fat, over 35% of their daily calories. By every nutritional rule of the era, they should have been dying of heart disease. Instead, they possessed the lowest cardiovascular mortality rate ever recorded, lower than Japan, lower than anywhere on Earth. For decades, we gave the credit to olive oil. But in the 1980s, researchers returned to the frozen blood samples from that original study. They weren't looking for cholesterol anymore. They were looking for omega-3s. They found that the Cretan diet wasn't just about oil. It was about the wild greens they foraged from the rocky soil, specifically purslane. If you want to reclaim this lost wisdom, look for the protocol of the red stem. First identification. Look for smooth reddish stems and paddle-shaped succulent leaves. In midsummer, it produces tiny yellow flowers. Second verification. Ensure the plant does not produce a milky white sap when broken. If it does, it's spurge, which is toxic. Purslane sap is clear. Third, preparation. Because it grows low to the ground, it must be washed thoroughly. The flavor is crisp, slightly lemony, and peppery. It belongs in your salads, your stews, and your history books. We spend billions every year on synthetic supplements and herbicides to kill the very nutrition we are trying to buy back in a pill. Nature didn't hide the cure for the modern diet. It put it in your driveway. You just had to stop fighting it long enough to see it. Look at the cracks in your driveway. Look at the red stems crawling through the gravel. You've been told this is a weed. You've been sold chemicals to kill it. But history tells a different story. In the 1960s, researchers noticed something impossible on the island of Crete. The residents had 3 times the omega-3 levels of the Dutch. But they weren't eating more fish, they were eating this. Purslane. In salads, in stews, sautéed in olive oil. They fed it to their goats, then drank the milk. The entire island's survival was built on a plant that grows wild in every field. In 1992, Dr. Artemis Simopoulos looked at the data. She thought it was a mistake. 300 to 400 milligrams of alpha-linolenic acid per 100 grams of fresh leaf. That's 7 times more than spinach, 15 times more than lettuce. It is the richest vegetable source of omega-3 ever measured, not per pound, per leaf. But then the science got strange. Land plants don't make EPA. That's a marine nutrient. You get it from deep-sea fish or algae, yet Purslane makes it. When the findings were published, other scientists claimed the samples were contaminated. They weren't. This plant simply refused to follow the rules of biology. It packs 7 times more vitamin E than spinach, 6 times more beta-carotene than carrots. It contains melatonin, glutathione, and magnesium in concentrations that defy logic. Then came the Lion Diet Heart Study. 600 patients recovering from heart attacks, half were put on the standard cardiac diet. The other half, a Mediterranean diet heavy on purslane and walnuts. After 5 years, the purslane group saw 70% fewer deaths. Not just fewer heart attacks, 70% fewer deaths from all causes. In fact, the study was stopped early. It was considered unethical to keep the control group on a normal diet, while the purslane group was thriving so drastically. So, why is it missing from our shelves? We have been conditioned to prefer monoculture over nature. We value the grass that needs constant water over the plant that survives a drought. In 2022, Yale University discovered why purslane is so resilient. Most plants have to choose. They either grow fast but need water like corn, or they survive droughts but grow at a snail's pace like a cactus. Purslane does both at the same time. Scientists found that purslane operates two different types of photosynthesis in the same cells. It grows with the speed of a crop and survives with the grit of a desert survivor. It is a biological masterpiece hidden in plain sight. If you want to reclaim this lost wisdom, follow the protocol. First, identification. Look for the thick, succulent red stems and teardrop-shaped leaves. It feels like a rubbery jade plant. Second, safety. Never harvest near roads or sprayed lawns. Purslane is a bioaccumulator. It cleans the soil, so make sure the soil is clean. Third, preparation. The leaves are tart, almost salty. Toss them into a Greek salad, blend them into a morning smoothie, or sauté them with garlic. This was never a weed, this was food. We spent decades trying to erase it from our gardens, only to find that the secret to longevity was growing in the cracks of our sidewalks all along. The next time you see those red stems, don't reach for the herbicide. Reach for a harvest bowl. Look closely at the cracks in your driveway. Most people see a nuisance, an intruder. But you're looking at a biological impossibility. That red-stemmed plant is doing something no other species on Earth can do. It doesn't just grow, it outthinks its environment. Most plants choose one way to breathe, one way to process energy. But purslane, it's like a car engine that runs on gasoline and electricity simultaneously in the same combustion chamber. It recruits the same enzymes for different jobs at different times. It doesn't switch, it just dominates. While industrial corn crops wither without constant irrigation, purslane survives on 1/5 of that water. It thrives in soil so salty it would kill a garden in days. It produces 200,000 seeds per plant seeds that can wait in the dark, silent, and viable for 40 years. If you cover it with plastic to bake it in the sun, scientists say everything has to go perfectly for it to die. It is the definition of resilience. So, why is this super plant the enemy? The global herbicide market hit $40 billion this year. Companies like Bayer and Syngenta sell weapons, actual chemical weapons developed in World War II specifically to wipe this plant from existence. Homeowners associations ban it. Agricultural guides teach you how to poison it, not because it's dangerous, but because it cannot be controlled. You cannot patent purslane. You cannot make its seeds sterile. You cannot force a farmer to buy it every spring. It has been free for 4,000 years and it refuses to be a product. Think about your omega-3s. We're told to buy expensive fish oil while wild salmon populations collapse. We pay $20 a bottle for supplements that often go rancid before they even hit the shelf. Meanwhile, purslane grows for free in every climate zone where humans live. It offers more omega-3 per leaf than almost any cultivated crop, not per pound, per leaf. It asks for nothing but sunlight. The world is divided into two groups. In India, they call it kulfa. In Greece, glystrida. In Mexico, verdolagas. They sauté it with garlic, toss it in summer salads, and celebrate its life-giving crunch. Half the world never forgot this was food. The other half was taught to call it a weed. If you want to reclaim this lost wisdom, here is the protocol. First, identification. Look for the smooth, reddish stems crawling low to the ground. The leaves are succulent, paddle-shaped, and store water like a cactus. If you see tiny yellow flowers, you've found the source. Second, the harvest. Never take it from the roadside where it's soaked in car exhaust. Find it in your own garden or a clean field. It's best in the morning when the malic acid content is higher, giving it a sharp lemony tang. Finally, the integration. Don't overthink it. Toss the raw leaves into a salad. Sauté them with onions and eggs, or blend them into a smoothie. You aren't just eating a plant. You're consuming 40 centuries of survival. We were told to poison our medicines so we could buy their cure. It's time to stop spraying. It's time to start eating. Look at your driveway. Right there in the scorched cracks where the concrete meets the summer heat, you see a nuisance, a weed to be poisoned. But while climate models predict a global collapse of our food systems, this tiny plant is winning. Modern agriculture is fragile. Corn and wheat require 30 inches of rain just to survive. Soybeans shut down the moment the mercury hits 95 degrees, but Purslane thrives on 6 inches of rain. When the sun turns the garden into an oven, it doesn't wither, it accelerates. For 4,000 years, this wasn't a weed, it was medicine. It was survival. In ancient Crete, it was the hidden engine of the world's healthiest hearts. Today, we spend billions trying to engineer what nature already perfected. This is the Purslane protocol. First, learn the signature. Look for thick red stems smooth to the touch, never hairy. The leaves are succulent, paddle-shaped, and grow flat against the earth. When you break a stem, it should be juicy, almost translucent. Small yellow flowers often hide between the leaves. Second, the harvest. Pick it young during the first 6 weeks when the leaves are tender. Eat it raw for a lemony, salty crunch, or sauté it like spinach. Finally, the legacy. One plant can produce hundreds of thousands of seeds. Let a few go to seed in late summer. Collect them. You will have enough to feed a neighborhood. The industry sells you omega-3 supplements for $20 a bottle. Purslane gives it to you for free, not per pound, per leaf. It is the richest plant source of fatty acids on the planet. It is a biological impossibility that has been hiding in plain sight for millennia. This was never a weed. This was food. Stop spraying the solution. Start recognizing the treasure. If this revelation changed how you see your backyard, subscribe to the channel. The next discovery is already growing. Hit the bell and join us as we reclaim what was lost.